Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I've got a slightly different video for you today. This is not a regular episode where I update you on what I've been knitting on and stuff. Instead, just looking at everything around me because I've got a lot of yarn around me, I thought I'd kind of do a bit of a planning video. So you can already see some of the yarn over here. If you've seen on Instagram, it's been a big kind of thing about sharing what 9 projects you want to try and get done in the year. So it's called Make 9, there's a whole hashtag and everything. And I know people have done videos about this in the past. And even though we're already, well, midway through February, I thought now that I finally, I'm back home, had a look through my yarn, reorganized things, I thought, why not film this? Just so you can kind of see what I'm hoping to do in the future, but also so to kind of tease what will come up in future episodes, but also to kind of, I guess, sort of hold myself accountable and make sure I actually do these projects, because I've been meaning to do them a while. And you'll notice a theme. You'll notice a theme because I'm going to tell you there's a theme. Most of the yarn I'm going to be using for these projects that I've got planned out are with yarn that I've probably had in my stash for the longest. Now, I haven't been knitting for that long, so I think the oldest yarn I have will be from like 2019, and probably like mid to end 2019, so it's not even like too bad. But if I can use all of this, that'd be great. Plus I also, pardon me, I also just want these projects like actually to be able to wear this stuff and use this stuff. So cool, let's get started. First one is one I've actually, technically speaking, already shared, but I got it wrong. So the first one I'm going to share is actually something I've shown before, but I need to actually correct what I said because I mentioned the wrong pattern. So I mentioned was it my latest episode? The one before? I really should know. I mentioned that I really want to give steeking a try. Last year wasn't even the year of colour work for me. December was the month. Felt like a year because I did so much, but that's when I really kind of gave colour work a try properly and really fell in love with it, and now I'm like, colour work everything. So the next step up, in my opinion, is then steeking, so I can have a nice colour work cardigan. And I had mentioned one by Kate Davies. I do want to make that one, spoilers, but not with this yarn. I've got some other yarn where I've got some minis that I can use because there are a lot of different colours, and I think you need 25 grams of each of the 3 or 4 colours. I think it's 4. And I've got 25 gram minis. They're non-superwash, so the main yarn I use, I want it to match that and be non-superwash, and I don't think I have anything that matches. So I'm kind of looking out for that, but in the meantime I want to focus on these ones. So I shared this before. This is by Ducky Darlings. So the lovely Hayley. This main colour is Rust Bucket. So you can just see it's like a grey with some brown and orangey kind of speckles. And these minis. So I showed this before on my podcast, one of the main episodes, but I got the pattern completely wrong. The one I want to make is by Skeindeer, and it's the Otra Yoke. Otra. However you pronounce it. My pronunciation is awful. And she only uses 2 colours. So she has the main colour and then 1 contrast colour. But I had a look at the pattern because I've got it. And I think I can actually do it by just knitting in 1 colour until I run out, switching to the next. Because in some ways, the colours that I've chosen are sort of a fade. So you've got the darker to the lighter blue to a bit of like a bluey brown, yellow. So I think it will work. We'll find out when I get there. It's worked bottom up, so I get a chance to kind of familiarise myself with the steeking first, which makes me happy. Just getting used to working those steek stitches. And then we'll get into the colour work. And then it's reinforcement time. So that's not going to be the first one I cast on. These are not in order. It's just one of the things I definitely want to do this year. And since I've already shared this, it probably will be one of the first ones I start. But it kind of depends. I've got so many projects going on right now and I just need to finish them. This isn't in a project bag. Not really. This came with the order of those little gum ball, like 5-gram mini balls that I ordered to make the Catman cow. And it all came in here. So I thought that was cute. Keep stuff in here. Keep it organised because it's already for a project. So the rust bucket yarn I've only had since probably summer 2020, so it's not that old. And the minis I got at the end of 2020. So this isn't one of those projects where the yarn's been sitting around for ages. But I always knew I wanted to use rust bucket for a cardigan. I just wasn't sure about which one, and I think this is going to be perfect now. Let's also quickly mention the fact that I'm filming from a different place. It's not that far away from where I usually film. Normally I film just over there. But I thought it'd be nice, since I'm doing a different video, that I'll film from here instead. So this is a really big chair that I have sitting just in the corner of my bedroom. So my bed is literally like where you are. And I'm actually filming with natural light right now, so I haven't got my ring light on at all. Because where I normally film, the like big windows, doors that I have, the light kind of shines in like directly from in front of me. And so it's perfect here, but where I normally film is at a slight angle, so the light doesn't hit as nicely. So who knows, maybe I'll film from here in the future, but I also like it when you get to see my Hogwarts castle. Not really just when I get to look at it. I know. I'm awful. I'm so selfish. So that's number 1. Number 2. I've had this. This is one of the ones I've had for a while. So let me just show you the 2 different types. This I purchased at the end of 2019. I'm pretty sure I ordered it around like in December 2019, but then didn't get it until because I was in Austria that year, and then didn't get it until like January 2020, I think it was, when I was back in York. So they're both from Banshee yarns. One of them is just a normal, I say normal, it's a cashmere lace is what it's called. 70% alpaca, 20% silk, 10% cashmere, 800 meters and 100 grams. And this one is just a classic mohair, so it's only 50 grams. And the project I want to make is the Augustine. Is it the Augustine? Do I have my phone? I'm not prepared. Hang on. Augusta sweater. So I did get it wrong. Good that I checked. Augustine, I think, is a knitted dress, like Augustine 11, that Inga from Knitting Traditions has just recently finished, and it's so beautiful. I never thought I would want to make a knitted dress until I saw hers. So make sure you check out her latest video where she talks about it. But yeah, the Augusta sweater, which is meant to be made from memory with 3 strands of mohair held together. I like mohair, but I don't like mohair that much. But I really like the sweater itself. So I thought, would it be possible to not use as much mohair and instead have, you know, like 2 strands of a lace with 1 strand of a mohair? And hopefully that would work out. I think it could be a lot kind of open and area because you haven't got as much of a halo from the mohair. But to be honest, I think I'm okay with that. So I've got a lot more of just the alpaca lace than I do of the mohair. And we'll see how it works out. I'm going to try and put pictures of what I'm talking about So it's a lot easier than just, you know, pardon me saying, this is the pattern I want to make, and then you're like, I don't know what that is. Have to look it up. Do I remember who the pattern's by? Yes, I do. Wait, it will come to me. Gregoria Fibers, who also does yarn. So her yarn is what she then uses for those patterns, and there's a couple of the patterns I really want to make, and I think originally I actually bought this for a different one, but then I kind of really fell in love with the Augusta and was like, it's gonna be a different one. But yes, I've had this yarn for a while. It's completely undyed, which probably means when I wear it I have to be really careful that I don't get anything on it. But I think from memory, I saw that Michelle, who dyes for Banshee yarns, had this. It was then kind of already cheaper because it's undyed. But I think she then also had like a sale on, and I was like, well, you've got me now. So I've got all of those. It's a lot of yarn, because you're obviously holding 3 strands. And I'll do a test swatch to check my gauge and see what the material looks like. And if I don't like it, undyed mohair is really easy to use for something. I've got a project with some undyed mohair coming up later. So this will definitely get reused. And then I'm sure I'll find something for this as well if it doesn't work out. But I really hope it does look how I've kind of imagined it. Because a lot of Gregoria a lot of the patterns by Gregoria Fibers use mohair held like double, triple, and like I said, I just don't like mohair that much. I prefer Suri Alpaca now that I've knitted with it, and the yardage isn't as big, long, however you say that, with Suri, and it just gets way too expensive. So that's like with the Pure Fuzz sweater that I mentioned by Skeindeer, where I had to use 2 strands of mohair. I did that with some drops, which I got during a de-stash. And I've talked about before, I don't really try to buy from drops. It's interesting, I actually watched a video by Fiber Tales. So Lerga from Fiber Tales did a video, I think it's already 2 years old. I'm watching like all of her podcasts. Like I've been keeping up with a while, but now I'm kind of going back as I wait for new episodes to come out. And she talked about how there apparently had been some like pattern stealing and stuff by drops, and I'm like, cool. That just makes everything even worse. And then I've heard like small yarn shops really struggling because everybody wants drops apparently. There's also been like pressure with sales and stuff, and it's just not really what I want to support. Whereas buying from a de-stash is something I'm a bit more okay with. Of course, that raises the issue of, but what if that person then just goes and buys more, you know, drops yarn? I'm like, yeah, that's a risk, but at least that yarn's going to get used. So, anyway, that's not what I want to talk about. That was project number 2, the Augusta sweater. Away from sweaters for a second, I'm going to talk about some socks. I think I've only got 2 socks I want to make this year. I say that. I'm taking part, I think I've already mentioned this, in the 12 socks in 12 months from the 52 Weeks of Socks book. Michelle from the Loveliest Yarn Company, the dyer behind Banshee Yarns, is running that. So I'm knitting at least 12 pairs of socks like I did last year, but this year they're not just any socks, they're gonna be from the 52 Weeks of Sock pattern book. And alongside that, I've got some sock sets that I really want to work on. I'll share the one that's a bit older first. This one. So this I got during the first... Whoop. I've gone fuzzy. Hello. That just took a little while. My camera just went completely out of focus. So I don't know for how long because I wasn't looking. So I hope that's all okay. But I got this sock set at the first ever Yorkshire Yarn Fest, which actually happened in person. So this was November 2019 from memory. And I got this sock set from Lucy Locket Land. So I absolutely adore Lucy. You've seen my wristies of hers. And these are the Winter Deers sock set. So I think she had like 2 different colours of this. You can already see I've had it for quite a while because it's just kind of sitting around and coming loose. That's all on me. Once again, I'll try and include a picture, but from memory, there were deer, which would make sense. So I think it was, you did the cuff and then you had some colour work. And I was very ambitious buying this when I did, because I had never done colour work. But I was like, this is going to be it. This will be my first colour work project. I'm glad it wasn't, because I think they wouldn't have turned out that great. So this is 75, a 75-25 superwash merino nylon. And I find colour work much easier, like with the Shetland stuff I did, and just grippier non-superwash yarn. But I think I've developed those skills enough now to be able to do these, and I just really want to wear them and knit them. Like, I just want to see them and be like, I did that. So that's number 3. We'll stick with that theme. This is also from Yorkshire Yarn Fest, which I bought at exactly the same time, and these are the winter deer mitts. So they're meant to, you know, same sort of pattern, but now it's mittens, and they're meant to go. Look at this. It's embarrassing because this is sat in my stash for 1 year, 3 months, 4 months. I'm not okay with that. I do have some yarn that's a bit older, but that's all like Wool in the Gang and We Are Knitters, and I've got like one skein of like an Aran weight yarn, and I'm like, what do I do with you? And I keep finding things, but I know that's going to take a while for me to get through, because like I said, it's just kind of waiting for the right project to come on along where I need like one skein of a coloured yarn. Perfect. But yeah, so these are the same kind of sort of pattern. They sort of will match with the socks. And these I'm not nervous about at all. To be honest, I'm not nervous about the socks either. I feel quite confident with colour work now, but especially since I've done the mid-wind deer knits by Skeindeer now, then I can't imagine this will be any harder. So also Lucy Locketland. Need to get onto that. Love her patterns. Though I think those 2 weren't designed by her. They were designed by someone else, and it's her yarn she's dyed up. But I think this pattern is by her, from memory. So, also Lucy Locketland. This I've had, I think it was around summertime, maybe a bit later last year. So these are the Brilliant Liz socks. And so Lucy did a whole video on this. She lost her friend Liz, who she kind of talked about and how amazing she was. The fact, I think I remember she talked about that she'd done like a colourwork sweater, even though she'd never done colourwork before, and Lucy was just always really amazed by her. And when she lost her, she was like, cool, I need to do something. And so she designed a pattern which is quite complex with the design and everything, and she was like, perfect, you know, in memory of Liz. And it does say on here, £3 from each kit sold will be donated to Mind, which I think is really lovely as well. So it was kind of wanting to show my support to Lucy by buying this, and then also the fact that it's going to a really good cause, I think, is amazing. And I also find the basis really interesting. I don't think I've actually looked at this before. I'm going to probably mispronounce a lot of this, but bear with. 60% Superwash Exmoor Blueface, 20% Superwash Falkland Corriedale, I love Corriedale, 10% Zwarbles. I think I was reading about this earlier today. Is it like from the Netherlands? Anyway, interesting. I didn't realise I had that. 10% nylon. So 75, so I think these 2, yeah, are hand dyed, the blue and the pink, and this is just a natural grey. There's 50 of that one, 50 of that one, 25 of that one. I love it. So these are going to be really cute, and they're also, you know, like Mind, I think, is a really, really great charity. And so it's also nice to know that some of that money that I spent went there, supported someone I really think is incredible. And I think that would just be really nice to kind of wear, especially, you know, if I ever have a really rough day with my mental health, it'd be really, really great to kind of wear these and remember things will get better. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 4 more. Yes. And I've got form in front of me, so that matches up. Let's go back to sweaters. I've had this yarn since the end of 2019. This was also something I bought when indie dyers were having sales and stuff. And this is by Truly Hooked. So Verity is the dyer behind Truly Hooked. This is a Peruvian Highland DK non-superwash wool. When I bought this online, I don't think I even checked bases back then. And so when this arrived, I was like, oh, it should be scratchy. And now I'm really glad I've got this yarn, because now I'm like, ooh, it's rustic. It's got a bit of grip to it. And what I want to make with this is the, let me check my notes, Alaska sweater. So if you haven't seen it, there's an Alaska hat and an Alaska sweater. I'm making the sweater because I have quite a lot of both of these colours. I'm using the yellow as the main, the grey for like the trees and things that you have in the pattern. And so this colour is just dark grey, and this one's called mustard. So I'm really excited for that. I just wanted my trees to be darker rather than lighter. I think I have the same quantity of each, and I'm going to use what's left over from this one to make. I think I've got enough to make a hat and mittens, and maybe even enough to do something else with it. Because I bought sweater quantities of both. And from memory, this was really cheap considering it was hand-dyed. And I'm assuming, one, that's maybe because the base itself was cheaper, but probably also because it was quite heavily discounted, because I'm assuming not a lot of people want these kind of, one, non-superwash. I know a lot of people don't want that. And then also, people want, not everyone, because I've changed my mind on this, but a lot of people do want that really soft, squidgy yarn, which is typically, you know, Merino. But now I'm really happy to make this. And like I said, I've had this yarn since the end of 2019. Well, that's when I ordered it. Like with the Banshee yarn, it didn't kind of come into my possession until the beginning of 2020. So, not too much guilt, but still a lot of guilt. So, I've got 4 of these, 1 of these, and that should be enough for the sweater. If I run out of the yellow, I'm screwed. If I run out of this, I've got more. But I shouldn't. I've checked the yardage and everything, and I think I should have more than enough. I think to even make it, because it's slightly cropped, I think I have enough to potentially make it even a little bit longer for my size. But that is number 6. Yes. Next one. Let's go one more shawl. One more sweater before I go into my favourite 2 that I'm really excited about. So this is some of the yarn I was talking about. Just a bit of fluff. Here are some random skeins of the Sugar Baby Alpaca. Yeah, by Wool and the Gang. So I've bought a few of their kits in the past using this yarn. Where there was always kind of like 1 or 2 skeins left at the end. Then I also bought a few colours to make kind of other projects for that weren't in a kit. And then I had some leftover projects I never got around to. And so what I've done is look through all of them, and I do think they all kind of work together. Let me get out all the colours. And I think I might even have extra in here that I'm not even planning to use, but that are backups if all of a sudden I'm like, no, I'm going to change things. Ooh. These are so soft. It's alpaca. Like, of course it's soft. I think these are all the colours. So, what I want to make, let's start with that first, is the Sanguine sweater. Once again, there's also a hat and a sweater. I'm going to make the sweater. I currently can't remember the designer's name. I will have everything... Like, I'll try and include a picture, I'll have everything, like, blended in at the bottom, description box, all of that. Sorry, I can't remember. And I should have written notes, but I didn't, did I? And the designer, I follow her on Instagram, and I absolutely love her. She does so many amazing reels and stuff, but her patterns are beautiful as well. Yes. So, the Sanguine sweater, and it's a colourwork sweater, uses a lot of different colours. I think it's a main colour and 4 others. Does that match up with what I have? And then I've got 1 extra because I might be using... Okay. So, I've got this ultra violet colour, this Quetzal green. I don't know how you pronounce that. It's called space black, but it's just black. Rocky Grey. And Icy Morn, and it's all covered in my hair. I feel like I need a picture of this. Oh my god, so much of my hair. And I've also got, I think, 1 or 2 of these tweed greys, but I think I have enough yardage with all of these colours. And I have one, is it the purple? I have one where I have the most. I think it is the purple. So that might be my main colour, because that's what I need the most of. But we'll see. I'm probably going to swatch, play around with the colours a bit, figure out how I want to work them. And just see what happens. And like I've done with the Colourburst sweater, I can always do like my cuffs and just the ribbing in this colour if I'm worried I don't have enough. But we'll see. And this way it's really kind of like, look at this bag. It's big. Oh, this is what my Truly Hooked board actually came in. I feel like I'm a traitor by not having her yarn in here, but whatever. What was I saying? But it would be a lot of yarn that I just had sitting around and didn't know what to do with, because I think I have 2 of most colours, which I think is all I need. Maybe. I can't really remember the yardage or anything right now. Which I think, so that they're 50-gram balls. So if I have 2 colours, it's 100 grams. And I think that's technically speaking enough to make like a hat with them. But I only need so many, and I've got a big head, so I might need more than that. But I've been wanting to make the Sanguine sweater for so long, and this is the right weight and everything. Alpaca is a bit, I find sometimes tricky to work with because it does tend to grow quite a lot. And I find it's not as thick as kind of other yarn, so we'll see. And it's 100% alpaca as well, so this baby could grow. That is number 7. Sanguine sweater. Excited for that one. Once again, wanted to make it for ages. Glad I finally I decided on this sometime last year, I think it was, with all the lockdowns that were happening, and I really looked through my stash and realised I had potentially enough of this yarn. I think I've got another random skein of Sugar Baby Alpaca somewhere that I haven't put in here yet, but I'll figure it out. It will be a colour work play, a kind of stash buster, if you will. Though, well, I guess stash busting doesn't mean that you're using scraps, because that's scrappy knitting, so it's fine. But so it just makes me happy that those skeins are kind of just actually being used for something I really want to make. Second to last project. So, Castle View Yarns, for one of the Yorkshire Yarn Fests last year, did a mini skein set. So there are 5 colours in here, and each one is one of the Bennett sisters. I love Pride and Prejudice. I typically read it every year. I watch the miniseries and the Keira Knightley movie all the time. And so when she released this, I was like, they're gonna be mine, but what project will I make? And then when I started searching on Ravelry, I found, it's called the Bennett Sisters shawl. And I was like, wait, what now? A pattern inspired by the Bennett Sisters and yarn? Well, they gotta go together, don't they? So the pattern itself is worked where it's a triangular shawl. One half is just worked with whatever yarn you want to use, and then the other half is worked with Mohair. So I went just with a natural one. That's what I mentioned earlier. So this one is by Ducky Darlings, completely undyed, and I need 2 sets of these. So what I'm going to do is start with one colour, work my way to the other one, then you incorporate the Mohair, and then I'll just do the same colours, but working the other way. So whichever colour is in the middle will actually meet, and then they'll mirror each other. That's what I'm going for. And I'm really, really excited for this. I don't have many shawls. How many shawls have I finished since I've started knitting? 2? I think. I just find shawls really hard. I've started a few, but just as you get more and more stitches, it just gets frustrating, and especially if it's just garter stitch, I get a bit bored. So I'm hoping this one, by being inspired by the Bennett sisters, will help me stay interested, and also the fact that you're changing colour relatively often because each one is a 20 gram mini skein. So I'm hoping that will keep me really interested. And like I said, I've had this since probably not even summer. It might have been earlier than that. Spring or something. And I've just been awful because I was working on my Taha Moana shawl, I think. Maybe even after I bought this already. And I was like, yeah, I'll work on it soon, and then just didn't. But, you know, if you don't work on a knitting project, there's probably a reason for it, and you'll work on it when you work on it. But all of these projects, I'd love to just cast them on now, but I shall not. I shall have restraint, and I'll get into how I'm kind of going to work on all of these once I've showed you my last one. Now this one. This is the one. This is the one where I bought the yarn and didn't have a specific pattern in mind yet. All I knew is I wanted a kind of basic everyday sweater with it, nothing fancy. Raglan increases, work top down, maybe a bit of like a higher collar so I really can just wear it and go out and don't have to worry like with this neckline, for example. Let me share the yarn. So, I'll share it first. Aren't these stunning? They're normally not my colours. I'm not a big fan of pink. But one, I love the name of the yarn and what it was inspired by. So, let's start with what the yarn is. So this is by La Bien Amie. Beautiful little label there. So she's based in France. And I've looked at her yarn so many times since I discovered her on Instagram and was always like, I can't afford it. It's too expensive. And it's pricey. To be honest, I can see why, because it's beautiful. But it just wasn't something in my budget. And then, lucky me, I ended up winning an award at my university, my department, for my teaching. So this was last year, towards, I think it was the summer. And I was like, oh, wow, I'm definitely using it on yarn, but which yarn? And this colourway is called Ponyo and Susuke, which is inspired by the movie Ponyo, which is a Studio Ghibli movie. And she did a whole collection, or she's planning, I think she's still working on it, because I think she's got 3 or 4 colours out now. So there's also Hal and Sophie, where I bought one skein to make myself some really nice fancy socks. But I bought a sweater's quantity of both the Mohair and her Merino super sock to make this kind of basic raglan I was talking about. And I love Studio Ghibli movies. I love Ponyo, though to be honest, it's not my favourite Studio Ghibli movie. I think my favourite probably is, my favourite happy one, probably Howl's Moving Castle, which is the one that Hal and Sophie comes from. And my favourite kind of more sad, drama-y, dark one, moody one, is either Princess Mononoke or Nausicaa and the Valley of the Wind, In the Valley of the Wind. I only have a German DVD, and so the title's in German. The movie itself is in English. You can also watch it in Japanese, but then I think I have to watch it with German subtitles, which I'm not too keen on. Anyway, getting sidetracked. But so I won this award and was like, oh, I'll save it up for now and see if there's any yarn that I really want. And I think this was in June, July, maybe August. And I think in September was when La Bien Amie was going to bring back the 2 colours, Hal and Sophie, and Ponyo and Susuke. And I was like, oh no, I have to. That's what my money has to go to. So that's what I did. It was still really expensive. My award covered most of it, but I think I still had to pay some of it on top. So I think without just what I paid, probably is what I would have almost paid for a kind of indie dyer, like a standard kind of indie dyer price here in the UK. But now I'm really glad I did it because Brexit. So now I feel like the only other time I'm going to be able to buy from La Bien Amie is when I'm back in Austria for like a holiday or something, and kind of, you know, order it so it arrives in time for when I'm there. Because that will... I'm not... I do not want to pay import tax on that. Or customs tax, whatever it's called. But, so the sweater I finally settled on is the... Let me check so I don't get it wrong. So I've tossed and turned between 3 of them. 2 of them were petite knit patterns. One was the balloon sweater, one is the no frills. Then there was another pattern which I called was called like Bohème, and they were all really lovely. But then I finally did decide to settle on the no frills sweater by Petite Knits, because it's exactly what I kind of wanted. It's called no frills, and that's exactly what I'm after. So I've got plenty of yarn for this, and I really like this. So I needed, what was it, 3.5 skeins of the sock yarn. And I was like, oh no, I'm going to have to buy a full one. But she does 50-gram skeins. So I saved a bit of money. Like, it would have been nice to have like another half a skein, you know, like left over at the end and make some socks or something. But it was just way more cost effective. And then hopefully I'll use up most of it, and whatever scraps I've left, I'll figure something out. But yeah. So that is one I'm really, really excited for, and I kind of keep putting it off. So I've had this yarn since October, so it's not that bad, but I keep putting it off because I'm like, oh, if I like don't like the pattern or I screw something up, like the yarn is just so beautiful and I love Ponyo, but it will happen. I think once I finish some of my other sweaters that I'm working on right now, because I've got 2 test knits I'm working on, and a jumper I'm working on as a present for someone. I've just got a lot of jumpers on the go right now. But I think this might be one I'd rather cast on sooner rather than later, because that's definitely something I can wear in like the spring and stuff. Whereas that DK one, the Alaska sweat, I think I won't cast on until towards the end of the year again. So I have it for the cold months, so that might be in autumn. But now that I've shown you all 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, it was 9. I kind of want to quickly talk about how I'm going to run this, because I could, you know, cast on all of them immediately, which is what I want to do, and I've stopped myself for not many years because I haven't had the yarn for that long, but many times. But I do want to focus them. I do want to get all of these done this year so I can really start wearing them. Because this is, like I said, some of the oldest yarn in my collection, but also like the La Bien Amie, it's really special to me yarn. Same with the Bennett sister shawl I want to make. It is yarn and projects that I really care about. So I've got some technical kind of challenging ones, so that's like the steeking one. I've got kind of just some beautiful socks that I finally feel confident enough to work on because they're colour work. The Brilliant Liz socks is kind of also, you know, like, I don't just want to show my support with my money, I also want to make the socks and, you know, kind of post about them on Instagram, talk about them on YouTube. Yeah. So I've got like, and like the Sanguine sweater is a scrappy one. So I've got like a mixture of old and new and just a lot of different things, because I thought a lot about this. But I also want to be careful about making sure they're actually going to be done. So I've told myself that I can only have one of these casts on at a time. So like I said, I think the first one, which maybe isn't the best idea, is probably going to be the cardigan, the steeking cardigan, which I might regret, because if that doesn't go well, then I kind of just stall on it and don't cut it. I might not, you know, get to the rest of it, but we'll see. I'll play it by ear for the most part. But I am just kind of trying to have one on a go at a time so I can really focus on it as my, you know, make 9 for 2021. And fluff. But yeah, so that's what I've kind of been thinking about since I came back at the beginning of January. I just kind of looked through my stash and kind of planned all the different projects I want to make. And there's a lot more I could make, because there's quite a bit of yarn I have in my stash. But these are the kind of projects where I've got some variety. I've got how many? I've got a cardigan, 1 shawl, 2 socks, 1 pair of mittens, and then 1, 2, 3... Wait, I'm missing something. What am I missing? 1, 2, 4 sweaters. So the 4 sweaters probably isn't the smartest, but I think I can do that. I have no idea how much I actually made last year, but I know it was quite a bit. So I'd love to hear, I didn't post about this on Instagram because, like I said, I've only kind of settled on this really recently and it's mid-February now. And But if you did kind of post about it on Facebook, I'd love to kind of hear from you. So if you kind of, you know, tell me your Instagram handle, for example, down in the comments, then I'll check that out and have a look at what you're planning on making. And if you're not doing the Make 9, that's absolutely fine. This is my first year doing it, and I'm only doing it because I really want to make sure I don't just get lost in the newest yarn, the newest pattern, use up some old stuff, use up some precious stuff, and just kind of, you know, enjoy knitting and enjoy crafting and enjoy my beautiful yarn. And I've also, for the most part, tried to be a bit diverse with the dyers, because I know I have a tendency to be a bit... Because you'll notice. Hoo-hoo! I didn't even realise this. There's no fibre fox. So I'm sorry, Georgie. But I think I never have issues casting on your yarn. Like, I get it, and I typically cast on. So there'll be plenty more of your yarn in the future that I will be knitting with. This is just some other stuff that I keep pushing aside, because you just keep dyeing up such beautiful stuff that I can't control myself, and I just... This is why I have to make the video and force myself to use the other stuff. No, I love all the yarn I have. But it is just, you know, some of the things I bought when I started out with knitting where I wasn't in the right place to be able to knit that yet. I don't just want them to languish. I want to use that yarn. And I want to be able to say, like with the mittens and the socks, I don't want to have stuff hanging around anymore from the first Yorkshire Yarn Fest in 2019. That's just not cool. There's a lot more. I shouldn't exaggerate. It's not a lot more. There's some. I'm going to stop talking, otherwise we're going to be here forever. But that is my Make 9 for 2021. And you'll see, you know, these in the future in my episodes. I don't think I'm going to do any sort of update specific to these, because I think you'll just see them in my usual episodes anyway. But if it happens, it happens. And you'll see it if it does. But anyway, that is me done. I hope you're all well, staying safe, and just coping okay with everything that's going on. I actually feel like I'm kind of coming down with something, so I'm a bit... I don't know, I think I might keep an eye on it and get a test if I feel like it could be the dreaded bug. Shouldn't call it a bug, it's a virus, but whatever. But yeah, I hope you're all doing well. I hope you're all, you know, managing to keep going with your crafting if that is something you can do and something you're interested in. And you'll probably see me in a week's time, because this video has replaced my kind of episode that I probably could have already done, but I kind of thought I'll give myself a little bit more time to knit and some stuff. So in approximately a week's time, you'll see my usual episode about some things I've finished and stuff like that. Now that's actually it. I'm actually going to shut up now. Thank you for watching. Please do, you know, if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. Please also subscribe if you've enjoyed the content. It's just the easiest way, like everyone says, of just, you know, always seeing my latest videos and things like that. Follow me on Instagram, where I'm a lot more active than on YouTube, because it's just a bit easier. Just, you know, one picture. It's a lot less demanding than a whole video, and I've got a lot more I can share. But yeah, and, you know, I'd love to, like I said, hear about your Make 9s, so please, you know, leave a comment behind. It's always lovely to interact with people. And I'll see you all soon. Bye!